Kentucky has asked me to give a Dhamma talk, and as usual, I'm not prepared because I didn't know. I should by now. I just figured I might have to. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and then I remembered your name, Mariona. Mm-hmm. And Mariona has been here before, but not usually for a long time. Is that right? And the name interests me because it sounds like the Great Mary. And that may be what it is, but it's like a very elevated sort of Mary, like not just something more. I don't know, do you know what it means?
Yeah. It's, I'm from Spain.
Yeah.
And where I'm from, we speak two languages, Spanish and Catalan.
I was going to say, I wonder if she's from Barcelona.
Yeah, I am.
How do I know that?
I don't know. We know. And so it's Maria in Catalan, but it was the term of endearment of calling the little Maria, but when you're young, mm-hmm. and it became a name. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of Marias in my family, so they call me Mariona to be
Yes, to make sure everybody knows which one.
But it is the Virgin Mary.
I thought, it's such a beautiful name.
Thank you. And
it elevates the name Mary. This Mary doesn't have to be elevated, but it does. It makes it special. And I had to think about it, and I thought of two stories which feature Mary that were told to me. Well, one of them is a very famous story, and that is the story of the peasant, the indigenous parishioner at a cathedral in Mexico, at a time when only the Spanish were in charge, and the native people were treated like, servants at the best, I guess. And there was one whose name was, of course, Juan, but Juan something I have forgotten what. And he was special in the sense that he worked inside the chapels and things like that, but his job took him into the church a lot of the time. And so he knew the I'm trying to think, I've lost all the names of the Catholic Church, I just cannot remember. But the priest there, who had a more official title, I just can't think of the bishop. He might have been, something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was a great guy and this little guy. And the little guy was a very, very devout believer. And that's one of the reasons that the priest liked him and knew him, because he was very devout. He did all this work, and he was always there at every possible time. I don't know if the native people were able to join in the Eucharist. Of course, this would have been like the 17th century, so you really don't know what it was like. But he was very devout, and one day when he was out and about bringing some goods from someplace to bring it to the church, he'd been sent out there to bring these things, and he was coming home. It was very rocky, dry terrain, and he came around the side of something, and there was a woman standing there, a senora, a lady. Not just a woman, but a lady. And he stopped and, polite, and she called him. Talking to her and say, it shows that I do not have equanimity, and he'd be so right, but it's all right, because it's just my heart overflowing. She said, she called him by name, and and he fell to his knees because he realized it was something special because he's out in the middle of nowhere and no ladies in beautiful clothing show up in that part of the world, without an escort, without all the things. And so he knelt down in front of her and she blessed him and she told him things about himself and something about that he should tell the bishop that he had met her, and because he wanted to tell, but he was afraid because he knew they would not believe him and that he might be punished for telling the story. But he went home and he told the bishop, and the bishop didn't believe him, but he knew that Juan was a good person, and so he said, well, if anything like this happens again, you tell me. And so he went out again, and this time he saw the lady again, and she again spoke to him and told him things about herself and about God and about what he was all about. And so when he went back, he told the bishop again. And the bishop said, well, I've spoken to some of the other priests, and they seem to think that you need to have some sort of proof. We can't really believe. I want to believe you, but you have no proof of this, And it doesn't matter who has this happen to them. Nobody will believe until they have proof. And so he went out again and several times, and I guess finally he saw her again. And he said, my lady, the priest tells me that I must have proof that he's spoken to me and telling me this. And she opened up her shawl, and roses, they were full of roses. And she said, you take this back to the priest, take it back to the church. And this is a part of Mexico where roses don't grow. I mean, they just don't. Not very much grows. And so he was quite overcome, but he brought he took some of the roses and put them in the shawl and he tied it around his chest and everything like that, and he went back to the church and he said, Father, I saw the lady again. And he said, the man said, well, what happened? And he said, she gave me this. And all of these roses, I mean, huge, now they just the mountain became bigger and bigger. And so this little man was beatified. He was made a saint. He's a saint of the Church of Mexico. And he described the lady and so an artist rendered it stood on a half moon, and she didn't have a child with her. She was still I think that's right. She was still just a young woman, and she's called the Virgin of Guadalupe. And of course, I live in California and Arizona, and Guadalupe is everywhere because she has great status, almost as much as some of these Mexican revolutionaries. They make candles in these glass containers, and they always have a story and a picture on them, and there are those of the Guadalupe, but it's more like people like the revolutionaries of the 19th century, the ones who rode out of Mexico and rode their horses up the steps of the sort of thing. It was quite a wonderful world to have been able to learn about. The other story is, it happened to a friend of mine, a Mexican man who grew up in a large family in the state of Jalisco, and his family was very, very poor, and they of course had many children, which didn't help. And his father only could make money as a mariachi, and there's not a lot of money in it. And he told me that, I'd asked him, well, how did you come here? And how did it all happen that you came here? And he told me a lot about his family, and then he said, we were very, very poor. We did not have any money for a doctor. He said, I served as an altar boy because they would give me the bread to eat. And he said when he was about 5, his sister was bitten by a snake, and there was no medicine for it and no money for a doctor. And people wonder why people come over to the United States. But anyway, and so maybe the child died, and the child died saying, no quiero morir, no quiero morir, and so it was very traumatic for the man who was telling me the story. And his mother went insane. Her grief was so great that she ran out of their house and ran into this deep canyon. The neighbors were all disturbed. They knew what had happened, and they saw her go. And she ran into the deep, deep canyon, and in that part of Jalisco, the canyons are narrow and they're winding, and they crisscross each other, and they're dangerous and full of poisonous snakes and other ferocious animals. I don't know what he meant by that. And kind of thorny desert type plants, but she just ran blindly, and they were calling her to come back. And the men ran out into the canyons with lanterns looking for her. And, the children were all, don't go down in there and everything like that. And they looked for her all night, and in the morning, but they gave up the search. They didn't know what they were going to do. It was dawn, and people had to go home. They had to work. They had to do whatever. They didn't know what to do. And she came right out of the canyon where they were standing, and they said, what happened? What happened? Are you all right? What happened? And she said, I ran and I wanted to die. I kept running and I just wanted to kill myself, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know what to do. And I came to this place, and there was a lady, una señora, not just a woman, una señora, and she had a baby, of course, holding her like that. And she said to the woman, she said, where are you going? And so this woman, my friend's mother, told what had happened, and why she was running, and she didn't know where to go. She didn't know what to do. She had lost everything. I don't have a life anymore. I don't know what I should do. And the woman said, go home. And so she did. She spent some hours trying to get home, and she did get home. And my friend said, you probably don't believe this, but I believe that my mother really saw this. That it's really happened. And because I'm the way I am, I knew it happened too. That it was real. It's real for her as, I'm sitting in this chair right now. Perhaps more real was that great reality that supported her. And so those are my two stories about Mariona. And I think one of the things that came to me when I was sort of saying, I have these stories, was that a promise was once given to me in a dream that the quote was, I promise you, and it was given to me by someone who looked a great deal like the Buddha, and was sitting in like a golden throne in the middle of the jungle, and all this destroyed ancient church and all this sort of stuff. And he was sitting there in his beautiful regalia, sitting like this. And he said, I asked him, where do I go? What do I do now? And he said, well, I promise you that you will see the tiger. And the thing was that I had just been to the tiger and spoken to the tiger, and the tiger had said, go see the man. And it came to me like, a promise can be something that's already happened. And that brought me back again to the woman in the canyon, with the way that somehow it was going to be all right. It was already all right, and she could go home. Of course, and as far as I know, she went and lived in Los Angeles for many years, but I know she's still living. And I think of this expanded world that comes with this practice, and with, I guess with a certain mentality, that the world as it appears just in ordinary is greatly expandable. It expands, it holds almost everything, and all you have to do is turn your head or your eyes, and there it is. You don't have to work at it or earn it or be good enough for it. It's so incredibly good, so incredibly powerful, and these stories are, I can't say that anything like that ever happened to me, but I know the reality of that, the absoluteness of what is happening at a certain time, and that it's not conditioned. It's not, I guess it's so, it's not conditioned reality, it's unconditioned reality, which means it owes nothing to anyone at any time. It's just what it is. And, I think of my friend's mother and how she went home. She went home. There wasn't any promise about how you're going to get to live in Los Angeles someday. It wasn't like that at all. It was just, this is in my own mind now, having been told this story, and how moving these things are. And how little Juan, I can't think of his last name, the lowest of the low in the church, had that reality. And the reality manifested itself in the roses that he threw down before the bishop. And I hope they were very fragrant roses. And it's not like I live for these moments, but when they come, it feels, it's like a great gift. A great gift that's been given to me, and I guess I'm learning to share it a little bit. I think I'm supposed to keep talking. I'm going to stop in about 2 minutes or 20 seconds. Yes, the expanded reality. Sometimes it's the most ordinary thing, but it's just there. And I know that it comes from having a clear mind, and the mind is clear for me when I'm not invested in anything, but when there's no self in that moment, there's nobody saying, this is what this means, or that's my experience, or that's or naming something, which to me takes away all of the impact of anything that happens. And so with that, I fold I fold up my shawl. Thank you for listening. Okay, cool.
I also share something I find valuable, or I found valuable this week. One of these retreats, somebody said, and I'm trying to share this with you because it always feels so weird to talk about myself. I'll share this in sort of an instructive way, I guess. One of these retreats, someone said, well, you know, everything's impermanent. Don't worry about it, it'll right.
I'm sorry.
I'll speak more loudly, I apologize. One of these retreats, someone said, you know, what are the four pillars of impermanence, right? Don't worry about it, it'll go away. It's commonly put. It's something very unusual. I just want to share it. It doesn't matter how to have it. It's only valuable if I can share it. Very unusual happened to me last week where it occurred to me that view of things, that they're impermanent, applies to both the bad stuff, but maybe more importantly, the good stuff, which was obvious but rather shocking revelation that occurred to me on my ride down from Danbury to Richfield after picking up some bread and getting gas. You know how these things just sort of happen, like, oh, wait a second. I was listening to some old song from the 70s. That was a great song. That was in the 70s. It was a long time ago. And weirdest thing, like for the next 2 days, everything was different. It was very strange. I want to share it because I think it's important, but I don't know how to describe it, except to say, I think I have more good baggage than bad baggage. You know, I had a perfectly fine childhood. You know, lots of great memories. You know, but they're permanent. They're completely gone.
Are they?
I don't know. That was the impression. That was the thing. And from that moment on, for like 2 days straight, it was like, oh, this is a whole new world. And I just share this because it never occurred to me that would be baggage. That would hold me back from the present, that would prevent me from observing what's going on now, that would prevent me from, or anyone for that matter, from taking things as they are, as they're being presented to me, whether it's the next song on the radio or the person who is in front of me or whatever. Those distractions of the past would somehow be a problem if they're good. And honestly, I was shocked. It didn't seem plausible. Doesn't seem plausible. It seems like our whole effort in life is to build a whole catalog of good experiences. That's the point. And we'll talk about them and make photos of them and put them on.
Yes, this is me, a success.
That's the point, right? You don't want to have bad experiences. You want to have the good ones, so you can remember them. I just shared this experience because it was novel and maybe worthwhile in present context. And for a brief moment, I looked up at our dear leaders back in the hall. I've never met this man, but he seems like he knows what he's talking about. And for a brief moment, I was like, maybe that's what he's seeing. Maybe that guy is seeing not trying to see the present moment, but has managed to sort of realize that these good things, whatever, are impermanent. And that's all there is. It's like it's expanded, but actually quite narrow. Because it's me talking and, right? The effort to sort of be in the present moment doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You either sort of are or aren't, I just share that because it seemed very profound and maybe worth sharing with you as an instructive matter. There's a very clear demarcation between the present moment and the past, which is very hard to achieve, generally speaking, until you see it happen, like I think I did, briefly, for a day or two. So there, I've said it.
Okay. All right. I find myself a little confused, but I remember what you said. And something I may ask you again about it. Like, what? But right now, I can remember what you said. Does it have to? Is this an idea that you don't want to? Never mind.
Yeah.
But, think about it.
Is that really the world that our monks live in?
You have to ask each monk himself, because each monk has his own world, just like we do. That's your world, why not mine? He only has his.
Yeah.
But we don't know it until we see it. That it's our world. Who wrote about that very well is Kozo Uchiyama. He died around the year 2000. He was a Japanese teacher, and he taught in Los Angeles, of course, with us. And he talked about how the world is, that each person, we assume that when we're born into something. It's like that. And now it's your turn to get out on the stage, But the stage set is the way it is, right? And these other actors are the way they are. But that's how most of us sort of see the world. But it's totally false, because we're inside our own world of our own mind. And we're in that, and the people that we meet, he had a way of saying that, you can just make this brief contact with another person. It sounds very lonely and weird, but it was a very good way of saying, you are the author of your world. You are the creator of your world. And you meet other people, and it's wonderful to meet them, or it's terrible to meet them. And you are nourished by that, but it is still your world, and that's their world. And someone, I guess his name is, I'm really stupid today, but anyway, he said that he was a great master in China in the 8th century, and he said, that I don't get the guy wrong. But this is something your experience is subjective. It's always subjective. Whatever you turn your attention to, you are the one paying attention to it. Nobody is making you the way you are. Nobody's doing that. It's you. And it's a hard lesson because it sounds so good, and then you go out in the world, you don't feel like that. But I think also that they have these vignettes when you see like that. It's a very valuable thing. You just keep going. One of them said, don't put a name on everything. Don't put a label on things, because that takes you away from what it is. So just experience it. And then on to the next. I think it's wonderful to have, it's an insight, right? Where you go, wow, now this is an insight.
It's those moments where something shifts and it changes your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
And you don't know what triggers. It could be the work of a lifetime,
Right.
or it could be a song.
Yeah.
And it's
It could be getting stung by a bee.
could be. It's fascinating.
So that's how we do all this stuff. So that we have monks come and visit us. We're so lucky. Very lucky. Very, very lucky.
It was very interesting that you connected it to Mary, because I was raised Catholic, but I am, as Chris Martin says, I'm old-faced. I lived in Asia many years, and I was introduced to yoga and Buddhism, and I connected deeply. And as I was doing the walking meditation, I had a dear friend who became a Buddhist. And I thought, traditionally I connect with the energies of Christianity. Because that's the way.
That's what's there.
Yeah, that's what was there. And I connect a lot with Mother Mary. But I'm not very religious. I'm very spiritual. I pray every day, but in my own ways. I meditate. And as I was walking, I thought, what if I become a Buddhist? and then I thought, would that mean to reject in the outer world, other beliefs? And to me, it doesn't. But then, as I was walking there, the image of the Virgin Mary came to me. And I don't know why. It was completely unrelated. I didn't come. And then Kuan Yin, which is, the nourisher, the feminine, all this. We have the images, the representation of the Virgin Mary Mother. So I don't know why it came to me, and then you talked. I never thought that you would talk about
I didn't think they would either.
to talk about Mary in Buddhist practice. So I thought, isn't it interesting? Like there's something about the feminine energy, the nourisher, Mary, Kuan Yin, that is calling us maybe to perhaps be more of that in the world we live in today.
Wow.
But thank you for
I
sharing.
had no idea. I didn't even know it. Yeah, I didn't even. I can't remember where the other Mary. I said I had two Mary stories. Can't remember them now. I just remember the one.
It's just fabulous.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
That's the one.